Let's get it. This is Life's Essential Ingredients with Jeff and a Mike, where we hope to inform, inspire, and transform lives, one essential ingredient at a time. Welcome to the show. All right. Thank you again for tuning in to Life's Essential Ingredients. My Pasho and I are so excited to have our guest today, Jay John, who is the Associate Athletic Director at the University of California at Berkeley. Special guest for us because when Mike and I didn't even know our own names, Coach John came and coached us for one season at the University of San Francisco, and it was our treat. And then prior to coming on air, he's just telling us some insider stories, that stuff that we didn't even know at the time, because like I said, we didn't even know our name. We're in college and just trying to figure everything out. So real quick about our guest, and first of all, Coach, thanks a lot for coming on. I'm going to kind of highlight your career, and then I'll have you introduce yourself a little bit. But Jay John, again, Associate Athletics Director at the University of California at Berkeley, born in Tucson, Arizona. Played both basketball and football at Northern Arizona University, and then transferred to the University of Arizona and graduated from there in 1981 with a degree in biology. Your coaching career started back where you started your athletic career at Sal Point Catholic High School in Tucson, multi-sport athlete. Then went on to Jamestown Community College in New York from 1983 to 85. 85, 86, went to University of Oregon and coached under the legendary Don Monson. Right after that, jumped back to New York for a few seasons to Jamestown. Did a great job there, got Coach of the Year. And then we had the good fortune of crossing paths in 88 to 89. You were a USF assistant, and we're going to get into that crazy story of how you got there. Since you did so well at USF, you jumped to Butler in 89 through 97, helped that university achieve 23 wins. 1997, team advanced to the NCAA tournament, first time in 35 years. Then you jump back to Oregon for one season. And then after that, 1998 to 2001, University of Arizona under legendary coach Lute Olson, 4 straight NCAA tournament appearances. Number 12 team or top 12 in the country every year you were there. And then in April of 2002, you were named the 19th head coach at Oregon State. You did an amazing job there. 04-05 team had first winning record in 15 seasons. You beat UCLA in the first round of the Pac-10 tournament back then. Earned a bid to the National Invitational Tournament, first time since 1990. Had a great run with Oregon State, and then jumped on to Cal with legendary coach Mike Montgomery for 4 seasons, and then moved into administration. You've had a 29-year coaching career. I don't know how long you've been in administration, but you don't look a day over 22. And welcome to the show, Coach.
Well, Jeff, you didn't know me at age 22, so I don't know how you got those pictures. If you have some pictures, I'd like to get them away from you there, because I'm not sure which ones you have when I was 22. You probably have some pictures when you were 22. You don't want anybody to see either.
Exactly.
So that anyway, yeah, I'm doing. Thanks, Mike and Jeff and Mike. I appreciate having the chance to visit with you, and hopefully what I have to offer fits in within the framework of what your mission is here. It's by and large, I've always thought and felt that teaching and coaching are the most honorable professions out there, as you really are sharing your experience and hopefully doing the best you can to lead and guide young folks as they pursue their own dreams, which is how I certainly saw teaching and coaching experience. There are a lot of young kids that are fortunate that I decided to stop teaching high school biology and just focus in on coaching, because that was truly where my passion was. And I figured that out after 2 years of teaching and coaching, that it's going to be really hard to be excellent at both. and I chose and made a decision that I just would try to be great at one. And I was certainly a lot closer to being great at anything as a basketball coach than I was a biology teacher. But nonetheless, my experience at Tucson, the folks that I met, the coaches that I had, you certainly prepared me for a lot of things in life. And the coaching career that I've had is something that I'm very proud of. It's been quite enjoyable and it's been a good ride.
Well, again, thanks a lot. Pasho, you want to say good morning and welcome to Coach?
Absolutely, Coach. It's been, like I said earlier, 100 years. I think we've seen each other. And it just goes to show, like, there's certain people that stand out in your minds. And for, as a player, certain coaches. Coach, you were definitely one of them. I know you're going to have to look up the old pictures of USF back in the day to see where I was. And understandable, you've coached and you've influenced probably thousands of young men. And I'm definitely one of them. I appreciate it. And I've got to say, out of all the coaches, I think you're definitely one of the top that stand out in my mind as far as what you taught me and during my time there in the situation I was in. And maybe we'll get into a little later, but I just want to thank you for that. And thanks for coming on, man. And Jeff was right. I didn't know you had 22, but I think you were in your 30s when I knew you then. You haven't changed. Good to see you, Coach.
That's funny. Yeah.
Want the guests to feel so welcome and take them back. And you didn't know, I think you're 62 now, but you didn't know you're going to end this show with a little bounce to your step, just feeling great. Probably go out and run 5 or 6, 7 miles, go hit a couple threes in Haas Arena over there, and just enjoy the rest of your day after time here on Life's Essential Ingredients. But Coach, we start out with a thought of the day, and this is a long one, so I apologize. So you could even run away and take a quick nap and come back. But this one kind of, I think, summarizes coaches and you, because I do think it takes a lot of courage to do what you do. And when we get into your career, and even you just talking and sharing after this quote, how you got to USF. I mean, you put yourself out there, you put yourself in the arena. And so I'm going to get to this, and it's from our 26th president, Theodore Roosevelt. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes up short again and again, because there is no effort without error or shortcoming. But who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself for a worthy cause, who at best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who, at the worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who knew neither victory nor defeat. And again, Mike kind of hit it out of the park. We felt that from you right out of the gate, and then hearing your story about how you got to USF, you did just put everything on the line, put yourself in the arena and said, hey, here is who I am. Here is where I'm going. Here is who I want to be. And let me get after it. What are your thoughts on that thought of the day? And again, just thanks so much for coming on the show, Coach.
Well, I got to tell you, God's honest truth. Okay. Yesterday, I don't know what was going through my mind, but I actually Googled The Man in the Arena with Teddy Roosevelt yesterday to reread it. Honest to God. See, I had that in my dorm room, in my house. It was part of me from way back, maybe when I first started coaching. I can't really remember, but it always, the part about the man in the arena, and I can never quote it, it's so darn long and stuff that, but just the part about not allowing naysayers to listen to what someone has to say, but don't take it personal in terms of what a critic may say. And that was one of the great lessons I got from a freshman high school coach who was a bit crazy. And I just looked at him and I just said, Coach, I never know where you're coming from. He says, don't listen to everything, the tone that which I say stuff. just try to pick out what I'm trying to say. I know I'm loud. I know I'm obnoxious, but da 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 da. And I just think that it's one of those things that you can't allow. If you have a dream, if you have a goal, and you really you really care about pursuing it, you're gonna trip up and fall. We all learn that as athletes. We all learn that as athletes. You do, and you usually, there's failure along the way. There's loneliness along the way, and I don't think it's any different pursuing a particular career. You've got to trust yourself and be smart along the way, or you keep making dumb decisions. But the bottom line is that man in the arena piece that's real. You got to have thick skin, as an athlete. You got to have thick skin in coaching, certainly, because there's a lot of imperfections, but it doesn't mean that you can't find a way to success along the way. So it is funny though. I just read that yesterday.
It's crazy. I've been so I'm a nursing professor now, and a coach, but I've been using this thought of the day. I've been coaching for 20 years, and would start my practice just to set the tone with thought of the day. And unbelievable how many times it would tie in to something going on with either one of the coaches or one of the players or one of my students. And then, not surprised for you to share that, you were just reading that one, and it's been something important to you, to your life. And so, the big fella is always looking out for us, and so glad that I picked that one. But that's one when I was thinking about you, that was you. That's Coach John. And again, thank you so much for all you've done for me and Mike and all the athletes and students in the lives that you've touched, knowing that you are a man of character, and somebody who's not afraid to get into the arena. I do want to just jump in because I know for me personally, coaching and being a nurse, I don't think that was a good combination, because nurses like to help people. And you're used to people receiving that and saying, hey, thank you, and so on and so forth. And then when you coach, especially like a sport like basketball, where you're gonna have a team of 15, and depending on your team, you might play 7, 8, 9, 10, and you have to learn to develop thick skin fairly quickly. And I know for me personally, that was challenging, especially coming from a helping profession. What advice would you have for a young coach who's just starting out, knowing that, it's going to be tough at times, and how do you learn to listen to certain people and learn to let others just kind of roll off your shoulders?
Well, I don't really think that I can come up with a canned answer that's necessarily right for everybody. I think that, curiosity, it really kind of starts as a young age. And even if you were as a player, were you curious as a player? Did you explore as a player? Always as basketball kids, there's far more opportunity to experiment and explore when you're playing in a gym with a couple other buddies in a 2-on-2, 3-on-3 type stuff when you're a kid, that you work on stuff. Football people they'll work on things, try to quarterback, try to throw it from a different angle. You kind of grow into being a coach. I think it's very rare that anybody just becomes one, decides through process of elimination, I'm going to coach. I mean, a lot of times that happens with a dad with young kids, right? And they realize then it's harder than it is. There's an evolution, I think, many times from being an athlete that goes into coaching, because you're around coaches, so you get modeling and such. But there's still, you can call it a bedside manner, you can call it whatever you want to call it, but the ability to be able to know what you're talking about. If you don't, then be quiet, and then be able to deliver it. And you got to be able to deliver it in different methods, because certain situations call for more emotional ways of conveying information, to a kid, heat of battle versus just really coaching. But I think the relationships along the way allow for that grow amongst, within a family, within a classroom, within a coaching situation. The relationships that are built before you face crisis are the ones, or at least, path in the road, those are the ones that allow you to be able to convey a message, or they turn you off. People, you can't. And I think some of the things with coaching anyway, it's obvious with you guys and you two that whatever it was about me at a particular time, I'm just being authentic and being able to convey for that situation what I knew previously to be and thought to be right. That, but there was obviously a relationship there enough, or a trust enough there that, okay, I trust this guy enough to explore this path. And, and then I think that's part of the, that's part of the deal. One of the best things that I did do was become a teacher to begin with, because when you're coaching a team, everybody, you really pretty much assume everybody wants to be at practice. When you're teaching a class, in a biology class, to sophomore girls, I'm gonna tell you, they're not interested. Some of them aren't interested in actually being there. And so now you've got to really understand how to communicate. Otherwise, it's pretty easy for you to be the one that take it on, to be embarrassed yourself that you can't reach this kid. And then by losing yourself, you lose the class. So you've got to be able to convey a message, know what you want, know why you want it, and try to be able to get to somebody's curiosity that I'm with you, I want to hear more. The coaching piece is easy, easier that way, because there's such joy in running up and down and playing the game that, if you can help me, my ears are open. That was the piece about coaching that I loved, is that, there was a message to be able to be given to somebody, but there was also an athlete or a player that was willing to hear the message, because they saw themselves, there's a roadblock here. How do I break through and get to this next level of performance?
Hey,
Yeah,
Pasha,
Coach, that's
I'll put you on hold for 1 second. Zoom is getting at you. Go for it, Pasha.
Coach, I just wanted to ask you about your different stops and all that. You're talking about lessons that you're when you're a coach, you're telling the kids, being part of the team, their roles, and how they can serve the team. Is there any way you could talk about how when you go to a different coaching job, you came to USF, you're the new guy in there, your other stops also. Did you take some of those lessons that you give to the kids, and did you incorporate that when you showed up at a place? And then when you show up to a new job, how do you stand out?
Well, I think if you show up a new job and try to stand out, then all you'll do is fall on your face. I think that when you show up at a new job, or you show up as a new player on a team, that you try to stay, keep your ears and eyes open, and try to figure out how what you bring to the table can fit into what the whole place is, the whole organization is. And then as time goes on, you can kind of grow into stuff. One of the things that was a challenge as I look back is my career was one where there was some jumping around. I could make an argument that I'd have been better off maybe not jumping around as much, because when you bounce around, there's different philosophies that you coach with, and that may be different than what you were teaching before. And so Ernie Kent was far different than Barry Collier. Ernie Kent was different than Lute Olson. And Jim Bravelli, there's some of the things he did with pivot foot were different than what I had been taught. But I learned real quick that a lot of this is Pete Newell influence. And what am I going to say? Pete Newell's wrong. So you got to find these things as a coach where, there's either room for not negotiation, but interpretation of how we're going to do this, or no, this is hard and set. This is the way we do it here. I don't care what you learned before, but we're defending the ball screen this way, plain, pure, and simple. I don't care what you learned before, but this is how we're defending the post, plain, pure, and simple. And so, okay, then that's the way this program operates. And I think that's like any industry, any business is going to have certain ways that they do things. And then there's going to be certain ways that allow your maybe artistic impression, so to speak, or your own personality and your past to deliver a message. You execute that way. So I think you have to figure those things out because it's a team sport. And, by and large, there's got to be give and take all the way through. And when there's enough give and take in a proper fashion, that's where you find teams with chemistry and buy-in. Is you found the right balance to pursue the same goal, and yet you've negotiated a piece of yourself where I fit in this and I help, and now I feel good too. And that's that's a very unique blend, and certainly the beauty of coaching when it comes all together.
Definitely. And I want to go back to your early career, Coach, back when Mike and I met you. And I just think that's a little bit of a crazy story, and it ties in so well with our thought of the day of you putting yourself in the arena and just being I guess we can call Arizona the West Coast, but being a West Coast guy, going to New York, coming back, surrounding yourself with people that you knew you valued their character and who they were going to be. And so that put you work in the STANFORD camp. And then tell us how you got to coach Mike and I at USF, because I think that's just a fascinating story, because I think it's hard for people to get their foot in the door. You kind of just say, hey, here I am, in the most respectful way. But I don't want to get ahead in the story, but tell us the story of how you got to USF and what that season looked like for you.
Well, to get to that point, I'm going to go back a little bit further, but not belabor that so much. So I'm teaching and coaching high school basketball in Tucson because that was just, I wanted to go back to my high school and be the head coach. I was extremely fortunate that my high school baseball, basketball, and football coaches were fantastic humans and wonderful coaches. And every one of them became a lifelong college coach. So they they were that good in their 20s, and they had influence on me. And ultimately, I recognized at a young age that those men could help me, and I wanted to learn from them. And so by the time I got out of college, one of them was coaching college baseball, the other was coaching college basketball, and the other was coaching college football. And I stayed in touch with them. And so for me, my epiphany was the 1983 Final Four. It was in Albuquerque, and I'm in Tucson. And I'm like, you know what? I know people in Albuquerque. I can stay on their couch. And at the time I was 24, and I said, I want more than being in Tucson the rest of my life. And so I went to the Final Four with the hope to meet coaches, and because I wanted to be a college basketball coach, but I wasn't sure how to do it. The only thing that I did know is the only way you're going to know it is you got to know people that are coaching in college. And so I went to Albuquerque and just stood around and glad-handed with people and got names and numbers and wrote letters and stuff to do that. I decided that's what I want to do, and I didn't know how to do it. I come back to Tucson, and my high school basketball coach, who had just got let go, he was at the University of Arizona. Coach's name was Fred Snowden at that time. Staff had just got let go, and he needed a job, and he got hired at a high-end junior college in New York. He was from New York State, and so he had connections, and that was a great JUCO college around the country. So I said, Coach, can I come? I'll be an assistant. That's how I went from Tucson to New York. 2 years there. And then a job opened up at the University of Oregon, a third assistant job. And it just so happened that Don Munson, before he went to Oregon, used to be at Idaho as the head basketball coach. Well, my high school football coach was now the head football coach at Idaho. And so he helped me along with my basketball, the coach that I worked for at Jamestown. Those two guys helped get me an interview at Oregon. And so, I didn't realize at the time, but a bunch of people had turned the job down. And so by the time they got to me, now I was ready to take that job. And then, so I worked for Don Munson, and I share an office with Barry Collier. Okay. And so then I leave to go back to be the head coach, and Kevin Mouton comes with me, one of your teammates. I recruit another kid named Kenny Hart from Rochester, one of your teammates. And both of those kids end up being recruited out to the University of San Francisco. Well, I'm the head coach at this school in New York. And so, at that particular time, I realized the only reason for me I was in New York, living it here, was because of basketball. And I said, that's probably not a good reason to stay here just because of this, because somewhere I'll get empty, and I'm not a New Yorker. And I was working a camp at Stanford in the summer of '88, staying with Barry Collier, because I knew he was going to get a head coaching job one day, and I wanted him to remember me, and we were good friends. And while I'm working the camp, one of the former coaches at USF that might have had you guys, a guy named Pat Fiscaldo, I learned that he left the program. And I wanted to leave New York. And so I'm at the camp, and I said, well, those guys have just recruited two of my players. And so let me drive up to USF and just walk in the office. And they got to talk. I'm saying to myself, they got to talk to me. They recruited two of my players. So one thing led to another in conversation, and I steered the conversation around to the staff because I knew they were missing one. And Coach Bervelli brings up the fact that they had an opening on a staff, and I said, Coach, I'd like that job. And he said, well, we don't have any salary money to pay you. And I said, it's all right. Let's keep talking. If you're interested, let's keep talking. And, it's a funny story now. At the time, I wasn't running around telling everybody that I was going to live in a dorm room at age 30. But I surely tell my kids that right now, that life doesn't necessarily have to be where you want it to be at age 28. Certainly wasn't there for me at age 30. And the last 32 years have been pretty good. So all of a sudden, one thing I do know about coaching, and you talk about people wanting to get into the business, if you're willing to work for no money, then people are willing to hire you. So it certainly helps to make that non-revenue situation something before when you're in your early 20s. But after that, you guys don't know this. When I was at USF, I was driving medical supplies at night from 6 to midnight, and on the weekends going to work on a trucking dock because I could make $15 an hour and work $120 a day on a Sunday or Saturday. So you do what you need to do, right? You do what you want to, in order to get where you want to be with what you want to do. Sometimes you got to make some real sacrifices, and to chase the dream that you want. And you hope that it works out. Otherwise, you're beating your head against the wall for 20 years. But for me, I was around good people, and Jim Bervelli being one, and then one thing led to another, and I kept working for some really great people. And one of the things I'm proud of is I'm not sure Jim Bervelli is the winningest coach at the University of San Francisco, but he's up there. But I worked for Barry Collier at Butler, winningest head coach in the history of Butler. Ernie Kent at Oregon, winningest head coach in the history of Oregon. Lute Olson, winningest at Arizona. Mike Montgomery, winningest at Stanford. And so, pretty blessed in terms of those folks that I had a chance to work with and work for.
Yeah, let's just jump right to that, because that was one of the things I wanted to ask. And you've been talking about character, and you've been talking about values, and this is going to be definitely a loaded question. But if you can take some of those legendary coaches that you just mentioned and pick some of the top qualities that stood out of each one and just share, good stuff. We don't, the listeners and even myself and Mike, yeah, you don't really know kind of those people. You see them on TV, you see them do well with what they're doing, but you're not sitting in the office, you're not on the bus and the plane and everything else and really getting to know them as men. What, pick one or two or three of them, and what stood out about each one of them to you?
Well, the folks that I worked for the longest, it'd be Barry Collier at Butler, and then Coach Olson and Montgomery. I think the thing that when you what I know, what they stood out to me at that particular time versus what I know now are maybe two different things. For at that particular time, you're coaching and you're trying to help everybody win, because everybody wins, everybody benefits. I think looking back at it, what it was is at the core, they were decent men, intelligent people, and had good, were good fathers and husbands also. And so you really had grounded men to lead an organization, any organization, because any of those guys could have been great in any line of work. But from the basketball perspective, they knew what they wanted. They knew what they wanted, and they knew what could get done at the school they were at. Because every place is a little bit different. Certainly Montgomery turns Stanford into something that hadn't been before. Coach Olson had done the same. Arizona had some success before in the 70s, but he took it to another level. But with Barry, Butler had been in the dump. Barry Collier, Butler had been in the dumps forever. And when I took that job, it was a job in which a lot of people in the Midwest didn't even know it was Division I. Some of our first recruiting stories, we would talk about, hey, have you seen the movie Hoosiers? And they go, oh yeah. I said, well, yeah, they filmed that in our building. Oh, really? That's where Butler is? He says, yeah. I said, oh, well, after that, why do I come to your school? Right? I mean, that's not a great recruiting pitch, because that was for many kids, that was the only way they could connect with the fact that Butler was in Indiana and played Division I. It's because of a high school movie I saw. So you really did build that from the absolute ground floor. By and large, every other job that I had, the team, the year before, you were still kind of a growing program, where the year before they didn't have a winning record, and so you're still trying to, build something. Arizona was already built, you just had to kind of perform to that level to keep it going. But again, you go back to the piece that you asked, good men that were decent and decent human beings, that were great at what they did, which is basketball, knew what they wanted, knew how to teach it, and knew that they wanted to recruit young men that fit their own particular character. Because if they were going to talk about family, then it needed to feel like family. And so that's then how a young assistant like myself can really understand that this is how if you're going to get your own head coaching job, you got to do it first with good people, that want to be on a team and want to be in school. And that may sound like that's so simple, but there's a lot of coaches and programs around it. You can say that, I don't necessarily have a program full of guys that want to really graduate from here. They just want to play ball. It's hard to really achieve, program sustainability over time with kids that aren't really interested in being there other than just to play ball. You got to care about the school. You got to care about meeting other people on campus and getting connected to the university, rather than just, being a basketball head.
Yeah, no, that's all good stuff, Coach. And obviously, you have done really well throughout that time in your life, and people realized that you had leadership ability, were a man of character, and that led you to achieve one of, I don't know, at that time, maybe 345, 350 jobs in the country. When you really take a step back and think about coaches in a very difficult job, but just what you've achieved to have one of 350. And so you got appointed head coach at Oregon State. Walk us through, and I know you were a head coach, in high school and at community college, but now you're running with the big dogs. You're Division I, Pac-10 at the time, one of the top conferences. You just got appointed head coach. What are you most excited about, and what are you most nervous about?
Well, there's, obviously you're probably nervous about making sure that are doing the right things that need to be done. A lot of times with coaching, maybe with a lot of things, is making the proper decisions of what not to do, or many times as important as what to do. That was one of the great things with Coach Olson and Montgomery, were they really understood. That's years of experience, which they had at their disposal. When I worked for both of them at the time, they'd already been through so much that they kind of knew, nah, that's a dead end. That's a dead end. I've already tried that. I'm not going there, and don't need to go there. Let's focus on this. Well, your first time head coach, a lot of times, everything's up for grabs. Should I invest more time in this area, or should I just drop it and save time? And so those are some things that you can only learn through trial and error. I think that, when I first got the job, up there, I'd been in the league at that time. I'd been in the league for 5 years. So there were some things about Oregon State that I understood. There were some things at Oregon State that had changed at that particular time. Dennis Erickson had been there, and football was fabulous. They had a new president that really was supportive of athletics, and the athletic director, two of the athletic directors there were fabulous. And they were, one of them now is the AD at Kentucky, the other's an AD at Alabama, and they were at Oregon State at the time. And so it was just a different vibe there. And, so and it was a great opportunity, right? I mean, they just don't show up. You said it at the time, at that time, there probably was about just maybe 310, 315 head coaching jobs, Division I. Now there is up about 345, 350, but that is 18 years ago. But at that time, yeah, it's one of those things. And, for me, and this is not a joke when I say it, at that time, I'm 12 years from living in a dorm room, or 13 years from living in a dorm room. So from an opportunity perspective, it's like, here's your shot, type of thing. And, so it was a great experience that way. And, and we had great success the first 4 years. My last 2 years weren't great, and I needed to be better. And it didn't help me or Oregon State when the rules changed and kids had to go to college. Because it just left a lot of kids that were the great ones right away. All of a sudden they were on campus, and you didn't have to face that before when I was at Oregon State, and so it changed things from the recruiting perspective. It took away a little bit of the niche that we had, which was getting older and just it type of thing. But that's beside the point. I needed to be better those last 2 years. But nonetheless, the experience and still the relationships with the kids. We did do some special things. First winning season, getting the postseason play, and ultimately with the day that the head coach told me that he was going to pay me to leave, he said, you left the program in a lot better place than it was before. It's I think over time it's been able to be proven that it's just a hard place. It's a hard place to get over the hump and win. But again, it doesn't change what you do. And I think if you talked about nerves, if you approach things worried about outcomes before you do the work, then you're going to be afraid to fail along the way. You have to dive into things. What's the next right thing to do? What's the next best right thing to do? And you take your years of experience and understand you can't build anything without good people. um, I will say I would have preferred the two athletic directors to not leave to go to Alabama, to go to Kentucky 1 year after I was working. I would have preferred Dennis Erickson staying instead of coming to the 49ers. And I would have preferred the president not leaving. But again, when you're playing a game, you would prefer not tweaking your ankle too. You'd prefer a lot of other things. But the bottom line is this is what you have to deal with in real time. And I think that's some of what enables a student athlete. Even to this day, businesses still crave, interviewing student athletes because of the commitments to time, the amount of lonely hours that you've had to try to hone your craft, some of dealing with the failure, dealing with the times that, I don't want to go to practice. I don't want to get through this, because everybody has fun everybody has fun when it's winning. There's a lot of work that goes into it. And I think that's the piece that those from the outside are always still trying to wonder how you do it on the inside. And being on the inside for all those years is still one of the most thrilling experiences that I possibly could have had. And as I said early on, the coaching and teaching profession are still to me, the most honorable professions there, because you're working with I used to say this all the time with college kids, with college boys, because I can't say that I didn't coach girls at a college level, so I can't understand how their day-to-day works. I do understand boys. And there comes a point in time when a college basketball player who thinks when he goes to college, he's been the star, and he doesn't see how he can't be the star when he goes to college. And then practice starts. And then all of a sudden you realize these guys are really fast. These guys are pretty strong. They're smart. I might not start. And they keep going through practice and they keep hustling all through this, and then it keeps going, and it gets towards November. That time when we were playing, it didn't start till Thanksgiving pretty much. So you're still kind of in the middle of November, and there's an exhibition game, and you don't play as much as you like. And then all of a sudden that freshman realizes, I'm not sure how much I'm going to play. And for some of them, that's when panic kicks in. And that's when that kid comes to you and says, Coach, what's going on? And I said, hey, what's going on is what happens to you and about 1,000, 1,500 other freshmen running around the country in Division I basketball right now. You don't have all the answers for the first time in your life. So what are you going to do about it? And you put it back on the kid and they don't know. And then it's like, okay, well, here we go. Now you've got the ear and the eyes of a kid who's hungry, more hungry than they knew. And, for a lot of those kids, maybe, hopefully, you have the aha moment, 2 or 3 years later, or 2 years later, when you just kind of figure it all out. And then they go, Coach, I got it. And I go, well, then you help the next knucklehead freshman, all right? Because he doesn't get it. And you were one of those kids 2 years ago or 3 years ago. So help them, because it's a process. And that was the beauty. That was the thing that I just absolutely loved about coaching, was that aha moment when you then now knew a young man had figured it out, at least at this level, how to manage his own success, how to take what he's taught in school or take what he's taught on the court and turn it into positive stuff. And all of a sudden, for some strange reason, the game got slower. No, you just grew up and got smarter. The game didn't change. Game didn't change at all. You changed. So it's that piece. I haven't coached in 6 years or so, 7 maybe. I miss that, because that's the beautiful. That's the reason why you keep doing it. And that's why former athletes keep going back to keep playing. and just, just to keep playing the game rather than get on a treadmill. I mean, those things just are the beautiful thing about the game of basketball.
Oh yeah, I love that story about the freshman. As a freshman, I remember we had and coach, Mark McCaffrey, and he was 6'9", about 230, whatever it is. I remember one of the first practices, Mark came and set a pick on me, and me weighing all about 185 pounds, felt like I ran into a brick wall and just crumbled. And that was like my aha, like, holy cow, what's going on here? But I love that story. But my question to you, coach, now is, even when we're at USF, you're an assistant, you're living in the dorms, you're around campus. I remember even playing pickup basketball with you in the gym at night. And you just seem more accessible than, let's say, the head coach or some of the other older coaches. And I just want to know, is there a difference, your relationship with the kids as an assistant coach than as a head coach? Is there a difference?
Yeah, I think there is. I don't think there's any question there is. Again, you start looking at division of labor in any particular company, and if you take a look at it, if you consider a college basketball coach or a football coach to be the CEO, so to speak, you have other different hats to wear as really the top of the pyramid of the organization. So other people are demanding of your time more so than an assistant. So, the donor, the top level donors, they want to be with the head coach when they can. And the former players, alumni, they want to connect with the coach, and the media wants to talk to the coach, and the coach has got to be part of the university in meetings and stuff. So they have a lot of different things that their time gets pulled also. And the assistant coaches, you have, you guys in college, you had probably position coaches, or you had people that were, some of the head coaches that I had that I worked for did it differently, whether it was, you've got the freshmen as this coach, you take care of the freshmen, that group is yours. And then another coach had the seniors and all the things. And then you have the juniors, blah, blah, blah. Other times it was position coaches. You had this coach had the bigs, and the other had the middles, and the other got the littles. And so those are your guys, right? And so you then, those are the people you spend more time with those kids. And they're really, the coaches that really thrive can learn how to have that relationship that's a little bit closer, but yet it's still a relationship in which we've developed some way in which I can get on your butt because you're not producing like you can. So what's going on? And then so you've got that relationship there where it's your job to kind of help this kid work through some hurdles. And I think that all of us as people, when you try to get a problem solved, you don't want to let the top person know that you're kind of struggling with the problem. That could be in any line of business. Why do I run to the boss and tell him I don't know what I'm doing? Who's next to me that can try to help me get through this so that I don't look like I don't know what I'm doing? But the bottom line is I got an issue and I need to get it solved. And so I think that's certainly what you hope in a player-coach relationship, that young player realizes that I need some information. I know where to go to get it. And the coach understands that there are certain things you don't even know that you don't know, but I got to let you know you don't know those. And we got to start, let's don't get fat and happy and comfortable here. There's a lot more that you need to still experience. So I think those are human experiences that go on, and the best organizations disseminate, have their coaches get the right information to the guys. How do you know when to go into a gym as a freshman in high school, college? How do you know when you go into a gym what you're supposed to practice on? The NCAA tells you that you can't be with a coach, but for so many hours a day, how do you know what to do? The best programs are already putting that in your mind when they do get to coach you on the floor. These are the things when you two come back to the gym on your own that you should work on. And so now you're beginning to coach yourself. And when when in some programs, to be honest, they don't have that. The kids go into gyms and they don't know what to work on. So they go back and work on whatever stuff that's not going to help them. but it's because they have not been, there's not alignment within the program. It's not a circle. You know, it's you do what I tell you when I'm coaching you, but other than that, you know, go do what you want to do. That's not going to help the whole deal grow.
Yeah, I love all your insight and just taking us back to playing, which was forever ago. But I want to change it up a little bit on you, Coach. I'm going to get into this Triple H question I have for you. I want to know one of your heroes, a highlight, could be of your athletic career, could be of coaching, and then happiness. What is happiness at this point, in your life? So the Triple H, hero, highlight, happiness.
Well, the hero is going to be two. You know, one's going to start with my father. You know, and just as is a self-made man that, you know, rolled the dice a couple times and used his own ingenuity to make it, and certainly just taught me an awful lot of things that gave me foundation for when I left the house at, you know, after high school and, you know, college, that I kind of knew what I was doing. The other would be my high school basketball coach. You know, there's a couple others along the way, but you only asked for, I had to include my father, but professionally be my high school basketball coach. And because he just, first of all, he was a tremendous human to play for, really knew how to push my buttons. You know, and ultimately was acceptance of my, after we got out of high school, accepting of me trying to continue to pursue knowledge from him and know-how, and somebody I could go and talk to. He truly was a mentor for me. And ultimately, he's the one who gave me my first college job out in New York State. And from then I was able to build a lot of things on my own, but I needed opportunity. Highlight, well, I mean, there's a lot. I'd probably answer the question a different way if I was asked it tomorrow. But from a coaching perspective, you know, honestly, walking out the tunnel to coach in the national championship game against Duke in 2001, I'd walked out through that tunnel, you know, thousands of times before that. And since then, probably hundreds of times since then. But there was nothing like that day. And this is a funny. You'll get a kick out of this one too. So you walk through the tunnel. We're going to play Duke. It's a national championship game. There's a whole lot of buzz, and it was way different than the semifinals. 2 days before, we played Michigan State. Duke played Maryland. It was way different. And even though it was in the same building, it was a basketball game. It was way different. Well, Arizona had been in the national championship game in '97. Okay, one of the coaches on the staff was named Jim Rosborough. He was on the staff then. The other coach was a former teammate of yours, Rodney Tension. So Rodney Tension and I are the assistant coaches with Rosborough. So we get through all the introductions, you know, go down and shake hands with the Duke coaches and stuff, and we get on the bench. And Rosborough had told us the day before, when they throw the jump ball, don't look at the ball. Okay, Jim. Okay, pass to catch it, right? So the game happens, and they throw the ball up. And if you think about, you know, the Final Four song, right? The ball is tossed. You look up there, and you're watching the ball like you always do. There must have been 45,000 cameras that shot the jump ball at the same time. It blinds you. Rodney Tension and I could not see for the first 2 minutes of the game. And Jim Rosborough is laughing at these two rookie assistants in a Final Four championship game that don't understand, don't look at the ball when I told you. Hilarious. Evidently, we weren't very coachable, were we? So that was quite the highlight. There's a lot of other ones, no question. In a long career, you're going to have them, but that one, I'll never forget how different that game felt. And then the happiness piece. Well, you know, one of them is certainly, you know, coaching's hard on families. Coaching's hard on families, and so, but you know, after all these years of coaching and, you know, going through and being the coach and being away and raising my family, I just have a fantastic family. And, there's still things that I'm doing, but, my oldest son is working at the University of Cincinnati as a strength and conditioning coach in football. My youngest son's playing pro basketball in Romania. They're on their way to towards their paths in life. And so that piece of everything is wonderful. And from the basketball perspective, with the COVID and the weird stuff this year, being stuck at home, I actually got on the phone and I called. It was like 48 or 49 former players from every stop. Guys that I'd stayed in. I'd stayed in touch with. Some teams more than others. But the bottom line is, I was on the phone with all these guys, and just rekindling relationships as I am with you guys. And you never know as a teacher or coach how you do impact people or how they do remember certain times. But that was quite rewarding, for me to talk to guys well into their 40s that it's like you never stopped getting out there for position work and working on stuff, because there's just a relationship and a bond that goes on that lasts forever. And if you're going to coach and you don't end relationships that last a long time, then you wasted a whole lot of time. So I'm very happy that I've got these relationships with these guys like yourselves.
Yeah, no, and we appreciate you, Coach, and you definitely impacted so many lives. And again, we thank you for all that you've done for us personally. And then I love that your answers to that question, and it kind of crack it up. I can just see you and Rod on the bench. It's just one of those things. It's just habit. You look up, hey, did we win it? And yeah, that's pretty funny. You missed the first 2 minutes, and there is no feeling. Obviously, when Mike and I were at USF, we didn't win a whole bunch and never even made it to the NCAA tournament. But there still is no feeling like running out, even going to Cal, where you coached. We played one tournament. I don't know if you were there, but at UConn, where the Whalers played, there's like 32,000 people in that arena. And there's just, that's just a hard feeling to describe unless you're running out, and just the anticipation of competition, fans going nuts. And then in your case, having an opportunity to win a national championship. Yeah. So thanks so much for sharing that. Do want to get in, and awesome to hear about your success with your kids and all the amazing things that they're doing. And funny that you tie your hero to your father. Because it sure sounds like if I were to ask your kids that same question, I'm guessing that you're going to be top on the list as well. So congratulations for success on the court and off the court. That's got to make you feel really good as a dad. But I do want to get and pick your brain. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I know for me from coaching, and I know Mike as well, and probably every other coach, and you mentioned it briefly about the balance of family life and coaching. And I know it's very difficult to turn off your coaching mindset, because you're always trying to fix problems, always trying to tighten up everything. What advice would you have to a young man or woman who's getting into this profession and they do have a family, of learning how to turn that off? And is that possible? And just, what advice would you give them?
Well, the advice that I would give, I guess, would be, there's an understanding now, again, at different levels, there's different levels of the coaching piece. For somebody in college where there is travel and there is recruitment and there are things that just to do your job, it's different coaching in high school, right? I mean, the kids are coming to you, and if you're trying to build relationships to get the eighth grader to come to your school, well, you're not traipsing all over the country to try to get that kid. It's going to the same gym, it's going to a gym and trying to convince a kid to come to your high school. That's different. The college recruiting piece, it is what it is. You've got to travel to do that. You've got to be. So the best thing I would say is you're better off when you're home, be home. You know, there are some things where you can cheat the day and work at home because you have to. But by and large, you know, you understand that when you're home, at least with your kids and your wife, be home and be available. And because I think that they understand also that you can't be available like, you know, all the time, you know, because you do have to do your job. And again, I didn't have daughters, I had boys. So, you know, I know for the boys, you know, they could, you know, they got a lot of residual props at school because their dad was a college coach, and you know my kids' friends got to be ball boys, and so there was some things that was being cool about being friends with Tyler and Trevor that were part of the family business too, so to speak. So, but I just think that you know you've got to, one thing you don't ever want to hear is a you know, from one of your own kids is like you care more about the players you coach than me, and I made sure that that never happened. And at the same time, as I was coaching kids like yourself, I never wanted to be able to say that I care more about basketball than you do. You know, I'd rather spend my time with my kid helping him get better than helping you because you don't care about basketball. So, you know, but I'd say to you, answer your question, it's when you're home, be home, and be available, because you know those are precious times and precious moments, and certainly kids like it when their parents are watching them play their sports. So you got to find ways. You got to find way and time to be able to be there while your kids performing. If they're an athlete or they're a musician or whatever, you got to be there because it's important. It's important to them too. So.
Coach, I got a question for you. Speaking of family, with all your coaching experience, when you're home and you've just come back from a game and your family was at the game and you come home and they start telling you all the things you did wrong, how do you handle that?
Well, I can't say, you know, how much that happened. I mean, again, from a college perspective, I was just the head coach with the family 6 years. Okay, so and at that particular time, the oldest is in high school and in college, so he's not home. So I got off on that one. But you know, to your point, um, I think that I probably would say, well, let's just put the tape in and let's watch it here, and let's just go see, and you tell me what you're talking about, and let's just see, because you know you could, you know, you might be right, but let's watch the video rather than just speculate. You know, now that answer is not working so well with your wife. You know, it's like, what the hell was that? You know, well, why'd you let him do that? And I go, you know, well, you know, I'm not going to go into the play, but you know, she's right, and so is everybody else. And you know, it's not my fault that Nate Robinson shoots a double clutch jumper from 35 feet to tie the game and send it to overtime. You know, yeah, you're right. I shouldn't have let him roll the ball up, but I didn't think Nate was going to make a double clutch from 35 over a hand. What am I going to do? This guy just happens to be a pro. So anyway, yeah, I mean, there's a human side to it that if you don't, you got to have the thick skin, but you got to have a sense of humor. You know, and got to have a sense of humor. And you got to understand the big picture, and you know, understand the big picture and accept the big picture means you've got to be able to manage the successes and failures along the way, because they're bound to happen. There's too many crazy things that go on in sport, which is why it's so captivating for people to watch and play.
A good answer, Coach. And speaking of big picture, this is definitely not my expertise, and my beautiful wife handles all the finances for us. But I do want the listeners to kind of maybe get a little bit of understanding of finances in college athletics, because sometimes it just is a little bit crazy, and we'll jump to, and I don't do social media, so I probably don't even have all the facts down, but I know Sarkeesian just got hired at the University of Texas, and their coach 7-3. I think they won, their last game. Seemed like they had a decent season. They got rid of their head coach, and at the expense of $15 million that they have to buy him out. They have to buy out his staff of an additional $10 million. I don't know what Sarkisian is going to get paid, but I'm guessing it's more than $5 million a season. So we're looking at probably low end of $40 million kind of turnaround. I'm going to let you digest that for a second, because I don't even know if you know much about that's going on. I want to jump into Cal's finances, of your 2019 finances. You guys had a revenue of $92 million. I'm talking just your athletic department, and you had expenses of $100 million. And then football did amazing. You guys got $18 million in your media rights. Conference distributions, you guys received $4 million. Ticket sales, $9 million. So football, you guys were plus $8 million. And then obviously in a lot of the other sports, since they don't have such a fan base and can't fit, I don't know how many the Coliseum holds, but probably 85,000. What goes on in college athletics with all these millions of dollars? And can you have any, I know it's a broad question right now, and we're going to narrow it down a little bit. Just give us some sort of insight on some finances in college athletics.
Well, now again, this would be, some of this is mixed with my own personal opinions and observations, maybe that could be disputed by somebody else. But it's gotten out of hand in some ways. Certainly, the media has access to this information, and at this particular time, with a 24-hour news and sports cycle, people are constantly going to bring these things to light. The extremes of things really kicked in when conferences started their own networks, because they owned the property, and we've become a society where television doesn't want to have to pay great amounts of money to actors and actresses, because their unions command that they get paid X amount. That's why we have more reality TV shows, because these are not actors and actresses in reality TV. So I don't have to pay them. So I can put stuff on and I don't have to pay overhead, right? So there's an economic decision that goes on here. And by and large, every week during football season, the highest rated shows watched are football games, okay. And then there's going to be some basketball games. And so there's still market trends to where eyeballs go, which is where advertising goes. And so therefore people pay exorbitant amounts of money for television rights. And when you own the content in a particular league, and now you have a conference, now they've got to negotiate with you to get the Alabama LSU game on, because you own the rights to the game within your league. The USC Oregon game, you own the rights to that game in your league. So now you particularly figure out what those numbers are, and those numbers are what people are willing to pay, right? So now all of a sudden, in the past 13 years, there's these additional monies that are there that are propping up conferences, and so now these universities have got these other amounts of money. You bring up the thing with Texas and Texas football. Well, Texas is not paying $15 million for the coach to go away and another 10 for the assistants to go away. That's not Texas. Some group of donors or donors is upset enough that they're willing to pay for this, as long as you pay attention to what I say about that. So I'll help bail you out of your issue, but you are now going to listen to me on this particular issue. And so, again, and that repeats itself, at other schools. When you get to the schools like what you graduated in the WCC, you don't necessarily have that type of lunacy that takes place. But, and so And the Pac-12 has their issues in some ways because, to be quite honest, sports is not as important in the daily lifestyle of everybody as it is in the Southeast and the Midwest. It's just the truth. And so, so therefore this conference, you talked about Cal. I'm not going to go deep into what the numbers are with Cal. You have access to them. They're available. I don't choose to go get them. I know that there are some issues with some stuff, and we don't have full arenas. The refurbished football stadium seats 62,000, and yet we were maybe getting 40,000 in. Well, in the Midwest and the Big Ten and the Southeast, those are conferences that are putting in plus or minus 100,000 people a game. The model for college sports has been under siege. The model for, not enabling student athletes to benefit from their own name and their own skills, that's been lagging behind. And, so there's a lot of things there. I will say in principle, the idea of the amateur student athlete is still a pure one. And for 97% of the people that participate as a student athlete at a university in college, their experience is very much similar. There is a small percentage of greatness at 3%, 2-3% that are just better and different than the others. And that's where a lot of these conversations emanate from. It's those folks, because they're the ones that have the ability to make money later. And they are playing in sports in which there's risk. The Olympic swimmer should also have the ability to make money off of their gold medals. Missy Franklin, who came to Cal after winning six medals in the 2012 Olympics, she had to forfeit anything about being a pro in order to keep swimming. That shouldn't have, that fortunately, there's going to be a time when that doesn't have to happen any longer. And because how long can her career last as a swimmer? So you take advantage of things. Those things got to get fixed. But I do think certainly nobody has any idea moving forward what the pandemic is going to do and how it's going to impact, finances. I do know that for the however many hundreds, I think there's like 450,000 student athletes that in a normal year would graduate. Okay, this not being a normal year because of things, but in a normal year, maybe 450,000 plus or minus students a year graduate from colleges that were student athletes, and by and large, their experience is going to be a great experience that they did that. Most of the peers they'll ever meet the rest of their life never were able to do it, so there's a great value with it. But those aren't the kids that that they're not in the revenue sports either. So, like anything else that's bigger than yourself, it's going to take a little while to keep sorting it all out. But I don't think that eyeballs and fans are going to go away from wanting to watch the same sporting events they watch right now, and they just got to figure out how to streamline some of these finances and part with the coaches. That was, I always knew as a coach that you got paid. When you're an assistant coach, you should get paid more than what you get paid. When you're head coach, you shouldn't be getting paid as much as you're getting paid. But people put a premium on winning, and if you're a coach, one of those coaches that's got that reputation of doing such, or there's a belief that you can do this for our school, they're going to get overpaid. And they're also going to be quick to the chopping block too if you don't perform. But it's those are economic decisions that people a lot smarter and in bigger boardrooms than I'm in are going to have to sort out. But I do know this: when I was one happy person when sports came back to TV during this pandemic, and I don't think I was the only one.
Yeah, definitely, it's such a big part of everybody's life. We'll move on from this topic. I just, yeah, just it gets hard to understand, and I think you're the best example. You got into this profession not making a penny, and taking the job at USF. Um, yeah, found somewhere to sleep on the floor and had a shower, but no meal card, and not did it for nothing because you love the game. And now, coaches, and again, I think coaches deserve to make a lot of money, but do they deserve to make millions and millions of dollars a year for doing something that they love and all the other benefits that come with it? Yeah, I think somehow we need to reset um, the pay scale for things. But let's move on. I want to be um, aware of the time, and I think this is getting away from us. And appreciate all your time. I just have one simple last question. In this podcast is Life's Essential Ingredients, and it's under the umbrella of C4 Leaders. And C4 is an explosive, and it's based upon communication, chemistry, consistency, and creativity. And the last question that we have for our listener is called Light the Fuse. And it's action that the listener could take. Let's just use your role as an athletic director, assuming that we're going to have some listeners that want to get into athletics like you. What one or two actions can someone take today to put themselves in a position to be an athletic director at Cal?
Well, to get that specific to that particular question, there would just be, I guess going back to the beginning, because you've got to start someplace. So how do you get to a spot where you make a decision that this is what I want to become? And I don't think too many people stray too far from what they were used to or comfortable with as they're growing up. I do know in principle that you can't become great at anything without being passionate about something. So I can only assume that people would like to become the best that they can be at something. It's hard for me to understand anybody that would not want to choose that. Again, I believe you have to wake up in the morning with something to do. And so you can't become great at anything without being passionate about something. And I also believe that if you want to be an athletic director, then you should get your first job in athletic administration, be part of that entity. If you want to be a coach, then get one of your first jobs in coaching, doing something, being around a team. If you want to coach in college, then get in college. If you want to be in the NBA front office, then get in the NBA as an analyst or video person or whatever. But whatever it is that you see where you'd like to end up, then get into that industry and start running the hamster wheel and, just trying to see where you get spit off. But I don't know how else to just say, I want to do this. I said I knew I wanted to be a college basketball coach, but I didn't know how to do it. And I got lucky because somebody that I knew got a college basketball coaching job. And I said, I raised my hand. Can I come be your assistant? And so, there was by being around it though, by being around that environment, the timing of things worked out and you got your opportunity, to be able to work in it and build something. So I don't know that there's a right answer. Again, I do think that your decisions are going to be based on your interests and likes. So, and that's what your interest and like is in terms of athletic administration. Then go be an intern, right out of college. Study this in college. Go be involved as a manager or part of some team while you're in college, so that you're around how that business works. And then you meet somebody. And I always would say to you finish up with college, you've probably met somebody that's cared enough about you. If you invested your time in trying to help something, there may be some person, for 5 years could serve as a mentor or a contact. Well, use those folks, let them help you. That's what they want to do. Most people, if you got information, why not share it? So, and if you're seeking information, then go find somebody that's got information and see what you can learn. So I think by and large, people are good people. By and large, people want to help people, especially help young folks, and young folks that want to help themselves by trying to be, bursting out of a bubble and trying to be great at something. They're appealing, and I think people want to help those folks.
Great advice, Coach. Great advice. And thank you so much for coming on the show. Great getting caught up with you and just getting to relive your career, for you sharing some great insight that heighten things for Mike and I. Love to hear how you've been reaching out to your former players and using these crazy times to just reconnect and stay focused on what's truly most important. And Mike and I, again, can't thank you enough for coming on the show. Pasho, you want to say thanks to Coach, and then we're going to be out?
Absolutely, Coach. Thanks. Good seeing you again. And, as a young man, probably didn't realize for me then how much influence you had. But I just want to thank you for that. I appreciate it. You had a certain amount of toughness about you back then. And I think that rubbed off onto us. And we really do appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thanks a lot, Coach. And this is Life Essential Ingredients with Jay John, University of California, Berkeley. Thanks.